Great, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for coming today. I know it's early on a very rainy Friday, and it would have been much nicer to stay in bed. My name's Dr. Nessa Stagner. I'm the Dean of Academic Services. I am a Lamar native who has recently returned. I graduated from LHS, got to West Texas A&M for my undergrad, then Ohio University for a master's, and University of California, Irvine for my PhD, which is in U.S. Foreign Relations. So I love talking about history and politics and all that kind of stuff. I was at University of California, Irvine for a number of years and really wanted to come back to Colorado. And I'm so thankful that I get to be back here in Lamar. With all these changes that are happening, I also want to say that I am a product of Concurrent Enrollment. And it was like such a great thing for me. So we're going to go through this process together. I can see people in this room that I had classes with and I hung out with and just made my high school experience really wonderful. So that's what we're about as students, and we want to keep that in mind as we discuss all of these changes. So while we had all of you as sort of a captive audience, we wanted to just go over a few things. This is in the LCC instructor information. One of our goals today, with all the changes that are happening, is to really make you feel a part of our campus. You are college instructors. That's how I view you. I view you as part of our math department, our English department, our social and behavioral science department. And moving forward, I really want you to feel this sense of community with us, even though you're at different locations. So to just start that off, I wanted to show you briefly where the LCC catalog is. Maybe before we go further, you all know Del Chase and Jenna Davis, correct? You've probably gotten many emails from them. Kelly Emick is our Higher Learning Commission liaison. Is that an appropriate? Accreditation liaison. So she's here to help us understand some of the concepts that are going on. In the back was Jessica Medina, who gave you your packet. She works with me in academic services, so she oversees all the scheduling that happens. She's helping us keep track of instructor information and credentials. So if any of you, Jessica, Del, Jenna, Kelly, jump in if I forget something. So I just wanted to show you, this is our main LCC page. If you scroll down here to our catalog, this has all the rules that we have for students. And now it's going to take forever to load. What sections might be important to you on here are, in particular, we have course descriptions here. You can find a brief description of your own courses in the catalog. We also, what was the other section? Anything that has to do with rules, disciplinary procedures, what counts as student conduct, anything like that, is in our catalog. Jessica, were there other things that we wanted to say about the catalog? I think she just stepped out of the room. Yeah.
As you're considering courses to offer, it's also important to go to the degree and certificate, and it lists the courses that are accepted under those. A big one is the AA degree, so you can click on it and it will list what courses can be used to complete that degree.
I like the printer-friendly, not this one, but the degree planner version. This is a really nice resource for your students. So if you're trying to help your students figure out what classes to take, what's actually going to count for an AA degree or AS or whatever they're wanting to go into, this is a place they can go and research that and know what they need to take. Okay. So moving on, in your packet is a syllabus template.
It's a part that's basically together.
And it should have a paper clip on it. This is a big change for us this year. We are responsible for becoming disability accessible in all documents we publish. So for us, that means our instructors, anything they put up on their D2L shelf, anything we put up on our website, has to be able to be read by an accessibility tool. Some of you might have heard of JAWS before. This is a software program that someone who is seeing impaired can put on their laptop, and it will read for them. So this new template is meant to do that. We have in this, there's a blank template. What you need to do is copy and paste the information from your current syllabus into this new template. These boxes are specifically designed in the template format to make sure it works. So it doesn't work to copy things from the new template into your old syllabus, but rather we have to take whatever's in the old syllabus and put into the new template. So we've spent a lot of time on this. Hopefully we won't need to redo it for another 5 to 10 years, and we can just stick with this new syllabus. It also has a new section in there, and when you're teaching, you may want to go over these things with your students. Again, we're trying to, what the Higher Learning Commission wants from us is that your students in your classes receive the exact same experience as a student on campus at LCC. And that includes all of these things under this large writing category. So special needs notification. If you have a student with special needs, technically, because it's an LCC college class, you can call Becky Young. She's our special needs coordinator. She will assess what that student needs, and we as LCC can provide you with whatever those services are. We have a tape recorded lecture policy in there, which you may or may not want to go over with your students. And finally, there's this mandatory reporting section. As part of Title IX, there's a very large push to help students become aware of sexual misconduct on their campuses, and to help us as instructors be better at helping to protect our students. So in other words, what this whole policy is saying is that you as instructors are mandatory reporters. If someone in your classroom comes to you and says, I was sexually assaulted last night, we are required to follow up on that, to do an investigation on our campus. The student, we don't have to press charges, it doesn't have to go to the police, that's a separate investigation process. But we as LCC are required to follow an internal process for ourselves, and this includes all of you. Does that make sense to everyone? So, in other words, if someone were to tell you, I've been sexually assaulted, you would call Jenny Mortimer, our HR instructor, and just notify her. What Jenny's going to do is contact the student and say, hi, I've heard about this incident. Would you like me to do an investigation? And if the student says no, that's where it's going to stop. But the student needs to be given that opportunity. This doesn't matter if it happened at somebody's house on Saturday night, if it was with a non-LCC student. Anything that happens to an LCC student, you have to follow up on until your students are LCC students. Jessica also put in here 2 other documents. One is what a good syllabus looks like, correct? So this survey of calculus is one that you might want to use for your own class, just to see what kind of things he puts in there, okay? The other is a description of what actually needs to go in the syllabus and some really important links. So for example, in the section of your syllabus that says course competencies, those are all predetermined for us. So there is a link in this course description that tells you how to get to the link where those course competencies are located. If you're teaching a guaranteed transfer course, and Jessica can tell you if you're teaching a guaranteed transfer if you have questions on that, the learning outcomes are also predetermined for you by the state. What this does is all the four-year universities and community colleges get together, they decide the competencies and the learning outcomes, and what that does is it guarantees that your student, when they take the class from you, can go to CU and it will be guaranteed transfer for the same title as the course you gave them. So making sure those are the same in case that student has a young advisor who says, well, I want to check your syllabus, we need to make sure those are the same in there. Guaranteed transfer courses, many of them also have a writing requirement. I believe it's 25% of the course has to be in written form. So make sure if you're teaching guaranteed transfer, the link is on there. Talk to Jessica or Dell or Jenna. Any of them can help you with this process, and just make sure that we're including what we need to so we make sure our students can transfer with the credits that they have. Any questions on this? Okay, well, let's keep moving forward.
When are they due?
Syllabi are due, Jessica?
They should be to the dean at least 2 weeks before school starts, or to Dale Chase, at least 2 weeks before school starts so that he's able to look them over and make sure they're okay. The sooner you get us to us, the better, so that we have a chance to look them over and kind of make sure that everything's in order for it. So 2 weeks is our general rule before school starts. If you look, I know all of you've done syllabus before and you've kind of got that, but if you go through the one where it gives you those links and things like that and the learning outcomes, the new stuff that you'll find in there is stuff like in the learning outcomes, you can't just bold it or mark it. You actually have to delete the ones off there that you're not doing. Because if you think back of reading software, it'll read them all. It's not going to be able to tell you that that's not one of the learning outcomes. If it's on the syllabus, they'll be read out loud to the student. So you'll have to delete those. So small little tips like that, that even though you've done a syllabus before, I recommend you read through that to make sure that you've got everything compliant with what you need to do.
I guess the key is to make sure that it's done and you can hand it out to the students the first day of class. That's what we're shooting for. You know, the 2 weeks is great to give me a chance to go through them, and if I have questions, I can send them to Dr. Stagner or whatever.
The other thing that I'd say is the syllabus at a college, it's really our contract with students. So we have a lot of students here on campus that will challenge things like, well, I didn't attend class 10 times, but the syllabus didn't say I have to attend class. There's not a grade attached to my attendance, so I don't have to attend. And they're entirely right. So whatever you put in your syllabus is your contract with students. And I know this gets especially tricky for all of you because your schedules are hectic at times. Build in days, build in flexibility days where you have flexibility in your syllabus so it doesn't feel constraining to you. But things like specifics of how their grade is going to be calculated, what your requirements for attendance are, what your policy on plagiarism is. We're going to get to that R form in a minute, but just make sure all those things are really ironed out in your syllabus. Along with that, I'll just go into the grade appeal and plagiarism processes. Again, this is our attempt to really try to make you help us become closer with you. Because your students are taking a college class, if they want to appeal their grade, that actually comes to me. So The better that you can make your syllabus, the stronger that language is, the more clear it is, the better I'm able to defend you when a student challenges their grade. Does that make sense? So if you have a student who says, I'm unhappy with my grade, you can say, you know what, you can take that up with the Dean of Academic Services at Lamar Community College. They submit a written appeal of their grade. I do an investigation, which usually starts with looking at your syllabus, and I have them give me a copy of whatever materials they have, and then we go from there. The other piece of information you'll find in your packet is a copy of our plagiarism report. This is really important to me because many of some students at least, are taking classes on with you in the high school and on campus at LCC. Or they may graduate from high school with you and then come to LCC. We keep a file on any student that has plagiarism issues in the classroom. And that's really important for us because if we have sort of a serial plagiarizer, we kind of want to know about it, right? After the third time, we want to make sure that the consequence for that is a little bit more severe. Because, again, you're teaching a college class, take this very seriously with your students. It should affect their grade if they copy from a friend, if they copy something online and put it in their own paper, if they cheat during a test. There should be serious consequences for them. And this report turned in to me in academic services. One thing that can really help with plagiarism in your classes, for those of you who have one of these general guaranteed transfer courses that has the writing component, is to use D2L. How many of you currently use D2L? It's a little bit rough to get used to. One of the great things that it does is that you can have students submit papers and it will automatically tell you what percentage of that paper is plagiarized. It's a huge bank of information. It searches the internet. It searches papers at other universities. The function is turnitin.com. Maybe some of you use this outside of D2L. But I would really encourage everyone. That's actually one of the requirements for LCC is that we all get on board and learn D2L. And I think in that sense it can be a real advantage. Robert Vasquez, that's here in the back, he is our
D2L specialist?
Yes. He's for any questions you have about technology and LCC. And he is very good about giving instruction. We have an individual sign-up sheet today. So if you want D2L training with Robert, he's happy to sit down. Again, you're an LCC instructor. We want you to have all the advantages that our instructors have on campus. One of those is one-on-one time with Robert Vasquez. And he can sit down with you for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and help you learn the D2L process. And if you're in the middle of trying to figure out your grade book on D2L, you just call him up, and he can help you do that. So do we want to pass around that sign-up sheet maybe?
That could possibly be one of the breakout sessions that we do at the BOCES deal in November.
Yeah. Any comments on that? Questions? Okay. Also in your packet, you'll find just a lot of other useful information. We have a contact sheet in here. Many of you probably know Del Chase and Jenna's phone numbers and email addresses by heart. But there are some other ones on here you may want to know as well. Jenny Mortimer, our Human Resources Director, again, if you have to choose with sexual misconduct, anything like that, let's go to her. Becky Young, if you have someone that needs accommodations, she can help with that. We put some of the instructors on here for our full-time person. If you want to talk to a colleague about your discipline, ask them for a copy of their syllabus, anything like that. And then my contact information is on here, and so is Jessica's and Vice President Sanchez's. We have important dates for concurrent enrollment. These include when grades are due and the withdrawal date. If you have a student in your class who you get through the first few weeks or the first few months actually, and they are just not going to pass, encourage them to withdraw. That way they get a W on their transcript. It does not affect their GPA. That's a lot better than getting an F. Okay. Lopes Access. This is where you can find your students' information, email addresses, and everything like that. This is kind of our hub. So anything on there you want to know about LCC. One important thing we tell our instructors, and you may want to communicate to your students if they're also taking classes here on campus, is that there's an icon. Lopes Access is located, just so you know, there you go, up here in this corner. And it's a dashboard. Once students go in there, there's they can click for an emergency link. So if they are on campus and some kind of emergency happens, we can get a hold of them that way. And that may be something you want access to as well. Entering grades in Banner. How you enter your grades at the end of the semester. This is really important for us. The sooner you can get your grades entered, the better. We can't post grades to students until they're entered. Students need those grades, especially if they're transferring. The sooner they can get them to the school, the better. So just as soon as you have them done, you can walk through this process. Jenna, Dell, Jessica would probably all be happy to help you enter your grades in Banner if you need help with that.
And if you get in a real jam, if something happens, you can email me and send me the grade list, and we'll get them entered for you if you need to. It's better if you go in and do it at Banner, but if something happens, the old bus will do it.
The final thing is the idea surveys, which all of you have probably done. We do these surveys because we want to know about teaching, we want to know how to improve teaching in the classroom, but also because this is important to us for accreditation. We have to do evaluations, self-evaluate, and this is one of the really important ways that we do that. So this is just a little information sheet about that. Any questions? Yes.
I came late. Have you talked about the aptitude test and the scores required?
No, I have not. Yes, and we will be talking about that next. Okay, any other questions on this informational material? Okay, so now, probably the more important reason that we're all here is what's going on with the Higher Learning Commission. So the next thing, I'm sorry that this packet, this isn't the way we intended our packet to be. We actually ordered these lovely folders for you and it didn't come in on time. So, that's what happened there. But if you can dig through your packet now and find the Higher Learning Commission criteria. So I just want to give you a background on what's happening and the changes and everything. We are not alone. This is an issue that has hit, if you read the Chronicle of Higher Ed, it has been on the front page, various associations. I know the American Historical Association is taking positions on concurrent enrollment. All of a sudden, concurrent enrollment is just on the front page of everything. Everyone is talking about it in higher education. And because of various things that have happened, there is this concern that we have a disconnect from what's happening in our concurrent enrollment and and what is actually happening on a college campus. And the concern is, wow, we have all these students that are graduating with 30 plus credits, some even with an associate's degree, and they've never actually stepped foot on a college campus. What does that mean for the educational quality of students? That's the question. Is it what we want it to be? That's where the conversation started, okay? So LCC and all of you, we've done concurrent enrollment for a long time. We feel like we have a very strong, good system. Higher Learning Commission is under pressure from the federal government to improve their regulation standards, okay? They have come out with new regulations, and we're giving this to you as it's happening. When did the first one come out? January or something?
No, it started in 2014, but they just continually update their policies about every 6 months.
Yes, so the policies continue to update. This one that we're giving you is the very latest. This came out in March. So the goal is to really make sure that the connection between what's happening on high school campuses and college campuses is there, and that we have, that we're giving our students in both places a good experience. These requirements apply to on-campus as well. So the spotlight is not just on concurrent enrollment, it's on all campuses. There is a big push for faculty qualifications in community college, period. So what we're doing with concurrent enrollment is happening with adjuncts on our campus. All our full-time faculty are very highly qualified. We have a very strong faculty on this campus, and that's great. So don't feel as though anyone's being singled out. You can read through this entire document on your own, but I wanted to highlight a couple of sections. You'll see the bottom of page 1 speaks to what I was just saying. The following guidelines apply to all faculty members whose primary responsibility is teaching, including part-time, adjunct, dual credit, temporary, and or non-tenure track faculty. Now, this applies to general education courses, not to career and tech ed. If we have someone teaching welding, for example, they do not have to go by these standards. They have to get a credential, which often includes years of industry experience, okay? So those are a very different requirement than what happens for our general education courses. I'm going to let all of you read through this. I want to point out 2 sections which we're going to get into more detail about. On page 4, there's the section called Using Tested Experience. The general qualifications, when we read through these, is that new faculty that we hire from here on out to teach college must, for general education courses, must have a master's, period. They must have a master's. 18 of those credits have to be in the discipline, okay? So, for our current instructors, which are all of you, there is an ability to grandfather you in with 18 without the master's. So you have a master's, period. That's the new requirement. Right now, it's 18 hours in the discipline you're teaching. 18 credit hours in the discipline you're teaching. There can be an exception for tested experience, okay? can see under this section, this experience should be tested experience in that it includes a breadth and depth of experience outside of the classroom in real-world situations relevant to the discipline in which the faculty member would be teaching. It goes on to describe what those are, and we at LCC have developed a plan to kind of assess what tested experience might look like for you. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward. If you want to read this section later, if that's something that applies to you, this is where we're getting it. On the next page, some of you might be curious, page 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 full paragraph. This talks about Master of Education degrees, which I know some of you have obtained. HLC also recognizes that dual credit faculty members who obtained a Master of Education degree, but not a master's degree in discipline, may have academic preparation to satisfy HLC expectations. In this context, the curricula of graduate degrees, when inclusive of graduate level content in the discipline and methods courses that are specifically for the teaching of that discipline, satisfy HLC's dual credit faculty expectations. Okay, so what that says to me is that if someone takes a class and it is called pedagogical practices, that does not count. If they take a class that says pedagogical practices in math, we can count that. Okay? So this is going to get really complicated for us, and why I want to have individual meetings with some of you is because we are going to have to drill into your transcripts and see what the titles of those classes are and add up how many credits those equal. Okay? So the goal is 18 in the discipline. Okay? This is a longer document. You're welcome to, we just wanted to give you a copy to let you know this isn't LCC. We're not trying to do things on our own and just change concurrent enrollment. We are held to accreditation standards. This is something we have to do if we want to remain in college. To give you an update about how serious this is, Adams State's accreditation right now is under review. They were reviewed by the HLC. They did not meet expectations. I believe they have 1 year to correct their insufficiencies to maintain their accreditation. So again, HLC is feeling pressure from the federal government to really be a strong regulatory agency, and they're serious. We don't want to be Adams State. There are people that I've heard are transferring out of Adams State now because of this issue. We can't, that hurts all of us. So in your packet next, you will find the documents that LCC has come up with to address this. The first one on there is the concurrent enrollment addendum, but before we go over that, flip to the next page and we'll do the concurrent enrollment guidelines. These are guidelines that all of your superintendents have received. This for us is a living document. HLC, when you read through that document that we gave you, you'll see how vague the language is. And that's intentional because they want us to have some flexibility in how we enact changes on our campus, but that also makes it really difficult to make sure we're really doing what they want us to do. So I say this is a living document because if the HLC comes back to us and says, this isn't going to fly, we may have to change it. So this is our plan for now. We feel very confident in it. So that's the direction we're going to move.
What we did was establish an advisory committee that was made up of several of the superintendents in the schools. There was a principal or two, a teacher, a couple counselors, and we all met and started working on this. And then, as a result of that, we've established a an advisory committee that will be used annually to work through these transcripts and these applications for tested experience. So if anything, I think this has been a real positive change. We've now got a collaborative group that's getting together and saying this will work or this won't.
And how can we make concurrent enrollment better for everyone? So we can go through this. Faculty qualifications. Concurrent enrollment must have a master's degree with a minimum of 18 credit hours in the field they are teaching. Okay. Now, this next section has how this applies to new instructors and current. So all of you are listed under number 3, but let's talk about numbers 1 and 2 just so you know. New concurrent enrollment instructors must have at least 1 year teaching experience. So even if someone is fresh out of grad school, they've never taught before, they come to you, we want them to have a year in the classroom before they teach concurrent enrollment. The second one is new instructors, when they start, they have to meet that standard. If they are within a year of completing their master's in the subject area, we are going to use an instructor of record model. This is under B. So what that means is, let's say I'm teaching English, let's say I'm teaching composition, and I only have 6 credits left to my master's degree, and I know I'm going to finish it in May. I can ask Dell if I can have an instructor of record for that year. So that would be a qualified instructor on our campus, like Dr. Frankel, who would oversee testing for that year until I'm fully qualified. So that works for 1 year. That's the way we can have a little, I think that'll be good for a little mentorship in the classroom, and that gets someone that's working on a master's degree teaching concurrent enrollment a little bit sooner.
And we've been doing that for 2 years, so we've got a little bit of knowledge in we've changed it and hopefully made it better each time.
Okay, so current, this is what applies to all of you. We have applied for an HLC extension. Our current Higher Learning Commission accreditation is scheduled for,
Well, 2017 is our next report, and they come here in 2018.
so 2017 and 2018 are our years. If we get the extension, we'll have until 2020 to meet standards.
2022.
2022.
It's 5 years.
So, we hope we get it. This document is made from the position that we get that extension.
And in order to get the extension, we have to show them the process we have in place. So that's why we're building it now and putting it into motion. Otherwise, they will not grant an extension.
Yeah. Okay, so beginning 2020, current instructors will fall under the instructor of record model, wherein they may work under an instructor of record if they are within 1 year of completing 18 graduate hours. Again, we're not saying get a master's degree, but it's 18 hours of graduate work in a discipline, okay? Now, the second part, seasoned instructors may request a review of credentials and experience through LCC for consideration of exemption through tested experience. This is going to go before that advisory committee, which Dell talked about. So it includes high school superintendents, counselors. We want a diverse group. Ultimately, the Vice President of Academic Services, Cheryl Sanchez, will have to approve these because it's her neck on the chopping block as far as accreditation. And we'll go over what those will be. So, any questions on this part? I know that some of you teach multiple courses, right? Like different fields. Some of these we can have some flexibility in. For example, I think if you have 18 graduate credit hours in literature and composition are very close. Someone who gets a PhD in literature often goes straight into teaching composition. So someone who who wants to teach English literature and composition and has that 18, that's going to satisfy. Those are closely related fields. Other fields that aren't so closely related, for example,
Western Civ and Psychology?
I'm sorry?
What about Western Civ and Psychology? I mean, that's a specific one in sociology that we have.
Yeah. Those are going to be trickier. We would want to be really creative about the grad classes that you take. I mean, those are pretty. They can be different. They all fall under social studies, right, in the high school curriculum. So if we could find you a master's degree that encompassed that kind of title, we might be able to work something out that way. That's one of those things where it starts to get really muddy. And we might want to work on tested experience with some of those too. But we'll need to prove qualifications in each category that you teach. So yeah, we'll work on that. I don't want this to be overwhelming. We want to work on this with you. The state is coming up with ways that, because this is affecting everyone, it's not just us. So CSU Global right now is working on a program. I just talked to their director a few days ago, and he said that over the summer they're going to start math and I believe English literature. The classes for that are supposed to be fairly inexpensive, and we want to work on the cost, trying to figure that out. This is a frustrating process, and we don't want you to feel alone in that. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if our current teachers right now that are teaching, if they have that 18 graduate credit hours, do you foresee that down the road they may say that's not enough, they do need to go ahead and complete that master's? I mean, do you think later down the road that could? Because, I mean, we're telling them right now you only have to have 18 hours, but is it going to be next year?
It's just a
Just
guess,
joking.
but I mean, my experience in education, it's a moving target. I would assume that they probably will, but, I mean, that's just a guess. I mean, when I got my master's, I looked for kind of the easiest route because it doesn't pay. I mean, it doesn't pay to get your master's when you're teaching high school. And my ambition, I guess, was when I decided I needed a career change, I knew I had to have a master's here. So I kind of looked for the easiest route, and that probably is not the best thing to do. I wished I would have been more specific in getting one in my subject area. So I guess advice, if you're gonna go ahead and start working on your master's, do it in a subject area that's gonna matter, or if you know you're gonna be a superintendent, go that route, but do it in something that means a little more than some of the easy way, like I did. There is some legislation concerning concurrent enrollment that's gonna provide some money for you to get your master's. BOCES is working on a grant. Santa Fe Trail is a pilot program this time, and I think Southeast BOCES will be on it next year. That's gonna provide some money for you to take some classes. And I think I think the legislature understands that's the only way it'll work, because you just don't get realize enough benefit from, what is it, $1,000 you move across the pay scale? Well, that didn't go very far, so. That's what, I think that's where it's headed.
So let's keep moving, and we'll get through this, and then we can talk more as we get through the tested experience document. On the bottom here, we have some different things about instruction in general that are changing. These are also HLC requirements. Number one on here is that students can only take up to 29 credits on your campus. If they take more than that, it requires going through a long process to where each of your campuses has to go through accreditation too. So 29 credits is the max. After that, students can take distance learning, or they can come on campus at LCC. Personally, and I know we're very remote, and a lot of you drove very far even today, it's great when a kid gets to come on a college campus and experience getting lost in a building, finding a classroom, not knowing the people in your class. All of these experiences about college, if they can take one class here and get that experience before they're thrown into a 40,000 kid university, 2 states away from here, like having that experience now is really good. So that's an option for your students, having them come here. Maybe a night class or something like that. So the other option is distance learning. We also have a distance learning task force that is set up much like our others, that's looking into how might one of you who is qualified be able to teach a psychology class to kids at 3 other schools using a distance learning module option in addition to the kids in your own class. That way, if one of those schools don't have someone qualified in psychology, they can still benefit. So that's something that's in the works, and that's under number 2 there. Let's skip down to number 4. Students have a total of 15 credit hours per semester. This is something for all of you to think about. Every hour your students spend in class, and I know some of you need more than you have to, right, for your college classes, but the typical college class on our campus, for every hour they spend in class, they are supposed to spend 2 hours studying, homework, reading, etc., right? So that's the kind of rigor that we expect out of college level coursework. For every hour you're in class, 2 hours of work outside of that. What that means is that students taking 15 hours of concurrent enrollment should technically be occupied for 45 hours a week. And for a high school student that's also playing a sport and doing other things, that should pretty much max out their week. So 15 hours is where that cutoff is. Number 5 is what's going to be really important to all of you, and I think this is something that's come out of our discussions in the advisory committee meeting and with faculty here on this campus. We want to have a biannual department meeting. So we'll have one in October, one in April, where instructors will meet on campus at LCC, and this is going to include concurrent enrollment, adjunct, and full-time, and discuss rigor, course competencies, textbooks, and assessment. Instructors will be asked to develop and administer a final from an LCC-approved test bank and participate in grade norming. This is our effort, and this is going to help us as much as it will help you. You all are really good at teaching. Faculty on our campus can learn things from you. And this gives us an opportunity to also say, we've discovered, and it makes sense, that concurrent enrollment, the average grade for concurrent enrollment students is much higher than the average grade of students on our campus for the same classes. That may very well be just because you have top students in your classes, and we get that. We have to have some way of proving to the Higher Learning Commission that that's why there's this difference in the grades. So what that means is when they come, I can say, you know what? A kid in the high school took the exact same accounting final as a kid on our campus. And that gives you all credit too, that your classes are rigorous, that they are college level, and students can take pride in that they're doing the exact same thing as they would do over here. So that's the aim of what's going to happen there. Now, finally, to your testing question. Here are the general requirements for testing. AccuPlacer scores will always be accepted at LCC. Beginning census date, fall 2016, which is about the beginning of our third week. Correct, Jessica? We're going to change. This is a system-required mandate that we switch to a new placement test called CCPT, Community College Placement Test. This is a two-part exam. They're separate exams for math and English. So if students may not have to take English, they just need to take the math. Or they may just need to take the English. They won't have to take both. They can also get out of testing if they have the GPA requirements listed under number 4. The details of how we're going to implement CCPT on our campus are going to be worked out this summer. We're trying to give, what we decided to do was wait and let the bigger system schools figure out all the kinks, and then we'll implement it. We don't want to implement it until we know exactly how it's going to work, so it can be a really smooth process for us. Yes?
So you're not, so they're, our juniors this year took ACT,
Yes.
and we've used those ACT scores in the past, so starting next fall, those ACT scores are null and void.
We can still use ACT.
Okay.
Yes.
So what about when
Yeah.
next year's group will take SAT?
Yeah.
Will there be a set of guidelines like you gave us before on SAT?
Yes. So essentially, we will always accept AccuPlacer, ACT, SAT, always.
Okay.
What we will be able to offer on our campus to students will be CCPT. That's what we'll be offering, right? But we will always accept ACT, SAT, AccuPlacer, because we're always going to have kids coming from out of state, right? And those are all national tests.
And that CCPT has to be taken here, right? We can't do it at the school anymore?
We will be able to do it at the school.
Oh,
Yes, yeah. In theory, it should work exactly like that. That's why we haven't implemented it yet.
If I'm wrong, it gives the students a few more options to exempt them from taking the test. Like if they've got a high enough GPA in math, they
No
don't have
test.
to take it.
Yeah,
And we haven't been able to do that.
yeah.
And we won't recognize those exemptions until the spring of next year. So if you're working with a sophomore right now that has the GPA requirement and the letter grade in the algebra class, we're not recognizing that until the spring. So we are still administering AccuPlacer for your sophomores right now or juniors that are starting in the fall.
So in other words, that deadline in the fall is a hard deadline. So up until before AccuPlacer, census date, bam, CCPT. So whoever took AccuPlacer before will keep using their scores. They don't need to retake anything or anything else, but it all comes down to what we will be offering to students here on our campus.
Have the AccuPlacer scores been raised?
I don't
what they were?
believe so. I think
I
they're
don't.
the same. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Have you set scores for the,
Yes.
you do have that score?
We've accepted SAT for years, so yeah.
Can you get those to us?
Yep.
Thank you.
So the ACT and SAT scores stay the same as well?
Yeah.
Is it going to be kind of rigidly enforced because at our, they have the AccuPlacer criteria, but then they say, well, LCC is open enrollment. And so if a kid says, I want to take your class, we let them in and we tell them, you know, look, your scores aren't, you know, da-da-da-da, it's going to be hard, but we still do that.
So.
Not for college credit.
Not for college credit.
They have to,
We'll admit them into like a class that doesn't have a prerequisite. So if they don't have the ACT scores and they want in a speech class, well, speech doesn't have a prerequisite. They can get in that class, but they couldn't get into English 121 with an ACT score of a 15.
I've been told, I teach a government class, and we've had kids that have gone in there and taken that. It's not my choice. I mean, they said, this kid will take that class. You know,
Up until last year, though, there wasn't any prereq on an American government class. Now with that reading acupuncture score, there was.
So we can tell them, look, you don't qualify.
Well, I can't put them in the class.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, they won't be in there.
Okay.
Now, there is a way, if you want to appeal that, you can appeal to Dr. Stagner, that student can appeal to Dr. Stagner to waive the prereq requirement. You know, what that prereq says is we recommend that they have a reading level of this, or they have a math acupuncture of that. Now, if them and their parents throw a fit and they want to appeal that, they can. And it has been waived sometimes. It's pretty hard.
If you don't
To
tell
get
them
in.
that, they're not gonna know that.
What's
They're
that?
not- If you don't tell them that, they're not gonna know that. I mean, honestly.
But that's only in the classes that have the prereq requirements.
Right, which
Like
now with the
speech
reading is pretty, is a lot of them. There's some CTE classes that don't have prereqs, and like communications, public speaking doesn't. So yes, when AT doesn't have it.
And just for clarification, those prereqs are set by academic review committee on our campus. So it is a panel of faculty who come here, and they say, hey, students have to have reading to be able to take, government or whatever, and then they'll make that decision, and those go into our catalog. And that's where we get the prereq requirements. So if you are curious about what is the prereq for my class, you can look in our catalog, and on the last line of the course description, it will tell you what the prereq is.
And I would anticipate with our departmental meetings, they kind of excite me. I know it's another day you guys have got to commit, but you would have the ability to all
To talk about
talk
these things.
together and
Yeah.
say, maybe this isn't a good prereq, and change some of that. Textbooks, there's going to be lots of things that I think you'll be able to communicate and be a part of.
I know it's after 9, we have just one more thing here, and that's the tested experience application. I'm not going to read through all of this, I'll just kind of summarize what this is meant to do. I read to you in the HOC document about exemption from tested experience. So this is sort of our interpretation of what that looks like. In the third paragraph there are 4 categories. Each are going to be rated, and again, this is going to go before the Concurrent Enrollment Advisory Committee. 4 categories, each category rated on a 1 to 5 scale. To gain tested experience, you would need to score a total of 12, and that would be for the full 18 credits. An option here is that, let's say you get 12 graduate credit hours in the discipline, and you want to use tested experience for the other 6. We can work on something like that, okay? So tested experience is meant to give you some options. If you turn it over onto the back, this is the application. We made the due date May 31st because next year we're going to make it earlier. It'll be sometime, what did we say, March?
March, I think.
Sometime in March. Submit your materials, see where you fall, see how many points you get, and then next year, submit again. You can keep submitting as many times as you want and just have everything reviewed, so you can kind of just see where you're at, see what kind of things you need. We'll just go over these categories briefly. Under professional experience, let's say you teach English composition. If you are a member of MLA, if you go to the National MLA Conference, that would count in this category. Let's say that you publish a journal article about teaching English 121 in the concurrent enrollment environment. And I am more than happy to help you find a journal that would accept that kind of publication. That would count in this category. So it's not, you don't have to have one of everything in the category. It's the strength of each item under that category. Okay, does that make sense? The one that I think will be sort of an easy one for all of you is the third one, teaching awards and experience. If you're doing a stellar job in your concurrent enrollment classroom, I mean, let's say you're teaching math, and you can get testimonies from students that went in to get bachelor's and master's degrees in engineering. You can say, that concurrent enrollment math class totally prepared me for my upper level engineering classes at University of whatever. And this is where it's really nice for small communities, right? Find some students on Facebook, ask them to do a testimonial for you. We can use your idea surveys. We can use teaching awards. We can use teaching years of teaching experience. So this is a category where everyone should do really well in. The others, professional development, this is where some graduate coursework would count. If you have other things, let's say you went to a workshop at CU Boulder and there were other professionals in the field there, that would count. Work or other field experience. Let's say you teach history and you also work as a living interpreter at Bensold Fort on weekends. Something like that shows active participation in the field is what would count in this bottom category. The other thing I put that we together put in here is the professional relationships and connectedness in the discipline. This is something that college instructors do. They go to conferences and make connections. Kelly can probably pick up the phone and call another historian at CSU Pueblo or some other place that she's made a connection with. All of you may be able to do that too. So if you know of someone in your discipline that you worked on a project with, or you met at a conference, and you can get a testimonial from them that says that they've looked over your materials and your syllabi, and they've reviewed a video of you teaching, and they think that your class is college level. That counts in this category. So these are some of the options that, you know, many of you may just say, it would be a heck of a lot easier to just take 6 college classes and be done with this. But this is an alternative if you want to go another direction. And I am more than willing to help if you want to brainstorm any of these. So any questions? We really appreciate you coming, and the next